Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you with the most up-to-date political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in. Okay, happy Friday everybody. I hope you've had a good week and have a restful weekend ahead. This weekend there likely will not be an episode of China Update. I will try to get one out on Sunday, but there may not be any this weekend. Also, I'm still in Hong Kong and there are still some places open for Saturday noon for a subscriber meetup. If you're in Hong Kong and you'd like to attend, please email me at the email address in the description below. Let me know a little bit about yourself and I'll send you the details. First up, the big news in China, of course, is the sudden death of former Chinese Premier Li Keqiang, aged 68, only a matter of months after leaving office. Li, who served as number 2 under General Secretary Xi Jinping for a decade, was seen as a leading advocate of market-oriented reforms in an increasingly state-led economy. Once viewed as a top Communist Party leadership contender, Li was sidelined in recent years by Xi. Quote, during the Xi era, Li has played something of a foil to Xi in that he represented a more economically, politically liberal part of the Communist Party, which has been crushed by Xi and his supporters. End quote. The official explanation for the surprise death was a heart attack. State broadcaster CCTV announced today, quote, Comrade Li Keqiang, while resting in Shanghai in recent days, experienced a sudden heart attack on October 26, and after all-out efforts to revive him failed, died in Shanghai at 10 minutes past midnight on October 27th. End quote. When he took office in 2013, reformers hoped Li would follow in the footsteps of Zhu Rongji. At his first cabinet meeting as premier, Li declared that all ministries must, quote, solidly advance reform, end quote. The at times outspoken premier famously sparked debate about income disparities and poverty across the country in 2020, saying 600 million people in China earned less than the equivalent of $5 a day. The English-speaking Peking University law graduate rose in the Youth League while completing a master's degree in law and then an economics doctorate under a well-known advocate of market reforms. Li's patron was former leader Hu Jintao of the Youth League faction, the faction that Xi has sidelined and weakened in recent years. Next up, it's been a busy week in US-China relations. We once again move through the important developments. Foreign Minister Wang Yi has arrived in Washington for what will likely be a trip to pave the way for a Xi Jinping visit to the US next month. Wang will meet with President Joe Biden during his trip. The consensus among Chinese academics appears to be that with the US election next year, resistance to improving Sino-US relations will be stronger. There will be few opportunities to improve Sino-US relations next year, so things must be done this year, argues Zhao Minghao of Fudan University's Center for America Studies. Ryan Haas, former senior official in the US government and now a senior fellow with Brookings, US-based think tank, writes yesterday that every indication suggests Xi's view of US intentions towards China remains quite dim. Quote, for tactical reasons, though, Xi would prefer to project capacity to stabilize relations, particularly when Xi faces a confident deficit inside China for overseeing a softening economy and increasingly strained foreign relations. The image of Xi being accorded more than a customary meeting with Biden will hold added value for him. End quote. It will give Beijing an opportunity, too, to show a domestic audience that Xi remains capable of recalibrating relations with the United States, a step that many in Beijing view as key for China's ability to manage relations with US allies in Asia, Europe, and elsewhere, he argues. As all this diplomatic posturing happens, however, military tensions in the air and on the sea continue to dangerously boil. Both the US and China have been disclosing videos of close encounters. Yesterday, the US released a video of a J-11 flying within 10 feet of a B-52 at night earlier this week. In an official statement, the US Indo-Pacific Command expressed, quote, on October 24, 2023, a People's Republic of China J-11 pilot executed an unsafe intercept of a US Air Force B-52 aircraft, which was lawfully conducting routine operations over the South China Sea in international airspace. During the nighttime intercept, the PRC pilot flew in an unsafe and unprofessional manner, demonstrated poor airmanship by closing with uncontrolled excessive speed, flying below, in front of, and within 10 feet of the B-52, putting both aircraft in danger of collision. We are concerned that this pilot was unaware of how close he came to causing a collision." End quote. In response, the People's Liberation Army released its own video of what it argues was unsafe behavior from US Navy vessels, saying, quote, "This video proves that it is the US side that is making provocations, taking risks and muddying the waters. We have much similar video evidence, but won't show them today because of time constraints." End quote. This is all very dangerous, and of course regular viewers know the most concerning theatre after Taiwan currently is in the South China Sea around the Second Thomas Shoal. We remember earlier this week Biden warned Beijing that an attack on Philippine vessels operating around the shoal would constitute an attack on a US ally and trigger treaty defense obligations. Beijing isn't blinking, however. Yesterday, a PRC Foreign Ministry spokesperson blasted Biden's comments, expressing, quote, "The US is not a party to the South China Sea issue and has no right to interfere in the issue between China and the Philippines. The US defense commitment to the Philippines should not undermine China's sovereignty and maritime rights and interests in the South China Sea, nor should it support the illegal claims of the Philippines." End quote. Also on Thursday, a Chinese Ministry of National Defense spokesperson, as well as spokespeople for both the Chinese embassy in the Philippines and in the US, made similar statements. The state-run Global Times writes today, quote, "The US is seeking strategic advantage in the South China Sea, while the Philippines is seeking benefits. The US is unlikely to stand up for the Philippines. It will certainly emphasize its security commitments to its allies, otherwise they would directly affect the US's reputation in the eyes of those allies. But the question is, do others believe what the US says? China has never felt threatened and will not fall for this trick." End quote. The next few months will remain very dangerous in both the air and on the sea. Next up, China's demographic decline. If you're getting some value from today's episode, don't forget to hit the like button. Sharing with people who you think would get some value from this type of content is also a huge help. It's one of the only ways the channel can grow. YouTube algorithm doesn't particularly like China Update, apparently. And for anyone who can go the extra mile, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. Thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. We end with an excellent piece by Chinese financial media outlet Caixin about China's decline in marriage rates, a trend tied to China's long-term demographic decline. The piece produces several great charts too, which visualize well this trend. We are now quoting selected salient parts of the report directly. The number of marriage registrations in China plunged last year to the fewest in 43 years, as more young people opted to stay single. The decline added to pressure on the country's sliding birth rate, which is driving a profound demographic shift. Marriage registrations dropped 10.6% year-on-year to 6.8 million couples, according to data from the Ministry of Civil Affairs released earlier this month. This is the first time since 1980 that the number of marriages registered nationwide fell below 7 million couples. It was the lowest total in 43 years and less than half of the number in 2013. While fewer people get married, those who tied the knot were less eager. According to the 2020 National Census, the average age for first marriages in 2020 was 28.67, compared with 24.89 in 2010. In 2022, the number of births in China was 6.56 million. The year 2022 marked not only a significant drop in the national birth rate, but also a record low for China's fertility rate at 1.07 for each woman of childbearing age. China's firstborn fertility rate fell from 0.7 in 2019 to 0.5 in 2022, a record low. For more than 30 years, China's fertility rate has consistently fallen below the replacement level, despite various fertility policy adjustments. By comparison, fertility rates in leading developed economies are 1.79 for France, 1.66 for the United States, 1.64 for Brazil, 1.56 for the United Kingdom, 1.53 for Germany, and 1.3 for Japan. Demographer He Yafu said that in recent years, China's declining fertility rate was primarily due to delaying childbearing and a rising rate of women remaining unmarried and childless. According to the study, surveys found that the proportion of women born after 1990 who had no intention of bearing children rose to 9.5% in 2021 from 4.5% in 2019 and 4.9% in 2017. As urbanization accelerates and higher education becomes more widespread, the female childless rate will continue to rise. Here ends the direct quote and today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Have a wonderful Friday, have a lovely weekend, and if I do not see you on Sunday, I will see you all next week on Monday.